Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, and that's right, you read the title. This is another and kind of official, proper top 5 list. And this one being my top 5 favorite Twilight Zone episodes. The Twilight Zone is for sure, without a doubt, a TV gem and one of the best shows ever written and that ever came on TV, none other than, the legendary writer himself, Mr. Rod Serling. And yes, of course, I have favorite Twilight Zone episodes, and hence with this top 5 list. And I've been kind of, trying to think that some of these, or if they are officially my top favorites, and I guess they are. But there are two that I do consider my number 2 and my number 1 favorite Twilight Zone episodes. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and kick off this top 5 list. This is my top 5 favorite Twilight Zone episodes. Number 5. Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. Okay, now, of course, this is without a doubt one of the best episodes of the Twilight Zone. It's right there, and is one of the Twilight Zone gems. Because this story is great because, you have, of course, William Shatner, and I'm pretty sure this was right before he became Captain Kirk. And especially, he had been on the Twilight Zone earlier in one episode, which being The Nick of Time. And that was his first episode. That was his first Twilight Zone episode, and this is his second. Actually, this is his second and last Twilight Zone episode he was on, which being, of course, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. Because, he plays Mr. Robert Wilson, a husband and father, and, a salesman, and he had just come back from, being under a lot of stress and just so on, and he starts, while him and his wife are on the plane, because he starts seeing this gremlin on this plane and, damaging the wing. Nobody else can see him except for him. But, of course, he does become a hero, killing the gremlin, and we do see at the very end, and as Rod Serling is talking, that the wing was damaged after all. There was, of course, a gremlin. This episode is definitely, without a doubt, one of the Twilight Zone's gems, And that's all I gotta say. It's that good. And not to mention, it was directed by Richard Donner. And Richard Donner, he would go on to direct the first 2 Superman films. So, yeah, before Superman, he was directing something else that had to do something with, flying in the sky. You get my point. Number 4. The Eye of the Beholder. Again, this one is another Twilight Zone gem, because, Miss Janet Tyler, who has been to the hospital many times for, face reconstructing, and this is her final one, and the last time she could ever do it, to fix her face and such, and also, fun fact, because this was in fact directed by Douglas Hayes, who the week before this came out, he directed The Howling Man. So, yeah, that too, The Howling Man is another Twilight Zone gem. So for The Eye of the Beholder, or, originally it was titled... it was titled The Eye of the Beholder at first, but then kind of later on, and when the episode aired, the name was changed to In a World of Private Darkness, I guess because of Rod Serling and lawsuit. I really can't remember, but no, the name of the episode is The Eye of the Beholder, and there you go. And because when the bandages are removed, we see just a beautiful, beautiful girl, and played by, of course, Donna Douglas, yeah, and everybody would know her best, from the Beverly Hillbillies, of course, the daughter. So, and Janet Tyler being under the bandages was voiced by Maxine Stewart. which is kind of strange, but you know what? Maxine Stewart really nails doing, Janet Tyler under the bandages, and so, when it's revealed, when Janet is revealed, and then, when the lights are turned on, we see that the nurses and the doctors, their faces are not normal and such, demented, and their noses, almost like pig noses. And, I guess, because in that world, and because as Rod Serling said earlier in the episode, this isn't just a hospital, and this patient isn't just a woman. This happens to be the Twilight Zone, and of course it is. And I like what Rod Serling said, Miss Janet Tyler with you is about to enter it. And yeah, we did enter it with her. And up until at the very end of the episode, well, this, the leader, addressing, I guess, to the people watching on TV, a single blah, 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 something like that. But then, Walter Smith, Walter Smith, who takes in Janet to I guess a village where how they look normal and such, and tells Janet of an old saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and which being a very old saying, This episode is just a masterpiece, and again, another Twilight Zone gem. So that's number 4. That's my number 4 favorite Twilight Zone episode, The Eye of the Beholder. Number 3, The Invaders. Okay, again, this episode too is a Twilight Zone gem. It for sure is, because the story of, a woman who is living in a farm all alone and such, and, Rod Serling making quite an early, appearance, talking about the woman and such living in the farm and mentioning, something that's coming at her from the Twilight Zone. I like how he looks up and then he says, the Twilight Zone. And what's great about this, there's barely any dialogue in this. Not just from, okay, of course Rod Serling has dialogue, but throughout most of the episode, the woman, for example, has no dialogue. And the woman living in the farm, played by Agnes Moorehead, if I probably said the last name right, I'm pretty sure, plays the woman living in the farm and such, until she is, invaded by, well, none other than the Invaders. These, little, figures and such with these devices that make this kind of sound, and she's just being tormented by these two things, and even, when one of them even grabs a knife, kitchen knife and so on, cutting her, and even she at one point kills one of them, and then, she would kill the other. She's completely lost it, she has an axe, goes up to the roof, and, the ship's almost about to take off when she just smashes it, and you hear a voice, which being the other invader. And actually, because the voice of the invader is Douglas Hayes, and, Douglas Hayes, who has, who I mentioned, who directed The Eye of the Beholder, and, of course, The Howling Man. So he has a cameo in this, voicing the Invader. And I just love because there's little dialogue in this, but the dialogue is great. The only ones who speak are, of course, Rod Serling and the Invader. And the Invader's dialogue is great, too, because, from, saying, Gresham is dead, the ship's destroyed, incredible race of giants here, race of giants. It's just so great, And the big twist, of course, none other than you see, because we see what the ship says, the words to it, which is U.S. Air Force. And basically, this was straight from Earth. These invaders came from Earth, and as Rod Serling explains. And so they arrived on this planet where there's race of giants. You thought that this was taking place on Earth, but it's not. And that's great. And I love how Rod Serling introduces the Invaders at the very end. He would say the name of the character and such at the beginning, but no, he does it at the end. This episode is just fantastic. The Invaders is definitely another Twilight Zone gem, and yeah, and fun fact, because this is Rod Serling's favorite episode that he did not write. His favorite episode that he did write was, of course, Time Enough at Last, starring Burgess Meredith. That, too, is another Twilight Zone gem right there. But, So, with all that being said, that's my number 3 favorite Twilight Zone episode. Number 3, which being none other than the Invaders. Number 2, A Passage for Trumpet. Okay, this is for sure my number 2 favorite Twilight Zone episode. It's a really good episode because the story of Passage for Trumpet is, this trumpet player, I guess he's an alcoholic or just something, and, I guess he's kind of let go, and he sells his trumpet, and he ends up kind of getting hit by this bus, and apparently because, I guess, he's kind of dead or just something, like, nobody can see him, and nobody's paying attention to him, until he he stumbles upon Gabriel. Okay, the one, the trumpet player and such, Joey Crown, played by Jack Coleman, and he stumbles upon somebody who can see him, and they talk, and that is, of course, Gabriel, played by John Anderson, and he had been in the Twilight Zone before, like, most notably in another Twilight Zone gem, which being the Odyssey of Flight 33, where he plays the captain, so, And I remember he was in an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. I want to say it was, the 3rd episode of Season 3. So that one. So in this one, because, Gabriel, he can see and interact with Joey Crown, and it turns out that, I guess they're the ghosts, and those who can't see Joey Crown and Gabriel, because they don't know they're dead yet. Stuff like that. That's kind of the twist there. Until, like, Joey Crown is revived, like, he's alive and okay, and he buys his trumpet back, and he's become a better man and such, and yeah, I really love this episode, and again, it's my number 2 favorite Twilight Zone episode, because I remember the first time I watched it, I just immediately got attached to it, and I was like, this is my other favorite Twilight Zone episode. So again, this is my number 2 favorite episode, A Passage for Trumpet. And for number 1, I don't know if you'd be surprised what it is, but I think it's I wouldn't say it would be underrated, but just, let's dive right into number 1 right now. And my number 1 absolute favorite Twilight Zone episode is A Thing About Machines. Okay, this is for sure my favorite Twilight Zone episode. And again, I'm not sure if this is underrated or something like that, an underrated Twilight Zone episode. I really don't know. And after all, this episode was one of those episodes that was written by Rod Serling himself and directed by, and it was directed by David Ulrich McDermott. I think I said the last name right. But so the story of A Thing About Machines, Mr. Bartlett Finchley, age 48, and as Rod Serling says, Mr. Bartlett Finchley, played by Richard Hayden, and he'd be best known for, say, being in films like The Sound of Music, Young Frankenstein, and Disney fans like myself would know him for being the voice of the Caterpillar in Alice in Wonderland. So in this, he plays Mr. Bartlett Finchley, who, and according to Rod Serling, was born, either, too late or, too early in the century, because him and his problems with machines, from a typewriter to a clock and a television, that kind of stuff, and the other cast of characters, like, there's, let me see, like, there's the TV repairman, played by Barney Phillips, who would be best known for being in another Twilight Zone gem, Would the Martian Please Stand, and he plays one of the aliens that has 3 eyes, and works in that cafe, so he's the TV repairman we see in the beginning of the episode. There's Henry Beckman as a cop, Margarita Cordova's girl on TV, like, Olay, that kind of thing. And the intern, played by Jay Overholtz, and Barbara Stewart plays Mrs. Rogers. And, like, because the machines, they start coming to life, and they torment Mr. Finchley, like the typewriter typing, "Get out of here, Finchley," and you hear voices from a telephone, the TV saying, "Why don't you get out of here, Finchley? Get out of here, Finchley!" And Finchley just refusing to leave, and at one point, because, apparently his car almost hit a kid, even though that he wasn't in the car, etc., and... yeah, and one night when he drank too much and he fell asleep, he wakes and, he sees that the machines are tormenting him once again, and at one point destroying the TV, smashing it with a chair, then, and a razor that he was using comes to life and starts, attacking him as well, and then he gets out of the house, and then his car turns against him and chases him, up to when he goes up to a neighbor's pool. The car is literally about to hit him, and then he falls into the pool, and he drowns. And according to, I guess, to the doctor and to the cop, it was the cop who was saying that, when they found his body, he wasn't floating. He was down on the ground of the pool. And, because they would, bodies would typically float and such, but Mr. Finchley's body didn't. And it could just be that he may have been drunk or had a heart attack, anything like that, but no. We know what happened. Us audiences, and, and of course, with Rod Serling, it was the machines that caused him to drown and die and such. I'm telling you, A Thing About Machines is a really good episode, and my #1 absolute favorite. And I, of course, have plenty of other favorite Twilight Zone episodes, of course, Time Enough at Last is a good one. I'll mention some to finish off this top 5 list. From Time Enough at Last, it's a great one with Burgess Meredith, and, because it was written by Rod Serling, and it was his favorite that he written. There's, Night of the Meek, Art Carney plays Henry Corman, who plays Santa Claus, and then there's, Nothing in the Dark, and then Nick of Time, as I mentioned, The Howling Man, and another episode that I think could be my #6 favorite, and it's the one where this couple who they're in this town, nobody's there, and they would come across a dummy of a squirrel or a dummy in a car, and the trees aren't real. They hear a girl laughing, and it turns out they were abducted by these giant aliens. And this little girl who's an alien, the couple become her pets. That was a good episode. And then there was also, I'm trying to remember, there was also Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. That's a Twilight Zone gem for sure. Not the Invaders, To Serve Men. That's another Twilight Zone gem. I could go on and talking about what are, some of the episodes that, are great and so on, but as you know, this has been my top 5 favorite Twilight Zone episodes. I hope you enjoyed this top 5 list, and let me know what you think of my choice of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes, and what you think of what you think of the episodes. Just leave comments as always, and give this top 5 video a like. So with all that being said, that's my top 5. This has been my top 5 favorite Twilight Zone episodes. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video/review, and happy Halloween to all of you. This was a perfect time to do this top 5 list, without a doubt, and Twilight Zone being perfect to watch around Halloween. Take care, and peace out.